Have you ever stopped to think about how a giant company like Apple or Amazon actually functions? I mean, how do you get thousands and thousands of people to all work together towards the same goal? It's definitely not magic. It's all about something called organizational structure. It's like the secret blueprint that turns total chaos into a well-oiled machine. So let's pull back the curtain and see how it's done. Here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to look at the problem that every single growing company runs into. Then, we'll dive into all the different ways you can group people. After that, we'll figure out who's supposed to be in charge. And finally, we'll see how real companies put all the pieces together to find what works for them.
All right, let's start right at the beginning. You know, every big company we know today started out as a small, scrappy team full of passion. But when you start to grow, a whole new problem pops up.
All of a sudden, nobody's quite sure who's supposed to do what. Emails get lost, communication just stops working, and making a simple decision takes forever. That awesome startup energy, it just fizzles out. This is the moment where a company has to get organized, or it risks falling apart completely.
So how do you fix this mess? Well, the very first step to get out of that chaos is to start grouping things that belong together. In the business world, this has a formal name, departmentation.
The whole idea here is to create focus. Simple as that. It lets people become real experts at what they do, it makes everyone's job crystal clear so there's no more confusion, and it gives managers a way to actually coordinate all the work. It's basically how you build a complex, powerful engine out of a bunch of individual parts.
Okay, so the most common way to group people is by their function, basically by what they do. Just think about it like organizing a toolbox. All the marketing folks go in one drawer, all the production people in another, and all the finance experts in a third. Everyone gets to be a specialist.
But, and this is a big but, there's a trade-off. On one hand, it's great for building deep expertise, and people have a clear path to move up in their field. The flip side? You can accidentally create what we call silos. The marketing team might promise something that the production team can't deliver, which creates conflict and slows the whole company down. Now, what if your company makes a ton of different stuff? That's where organizing by product comes into play. Picture a huge corporation that makes chemicals, metals, and plastics. Under this model, each of those product lines becomes its own little mini company or a division with its own dedicated teams. The awesome thing about this is you get intense focus on each product. It makes it super easy to see which parts of the business are doing well and which ones are lagging. The major downside? It gets expensive fast. You might have one marketing team for your chemicals division and a totally separate one for plastics. That's a lot of duplicated jobs.
Okay, what if your business is spread out all over the country, or even the world? Well, then you might want to organize by territory. You see this all the time with banks or insurance companies, any business that really needs to understand the local market. They'll create regional divisions, a northern team, a southern team, and so on.
The big challenge here is finding that balance between local expertise and a unified company. It's fantastic for tailoring your services to what local customers actually want. But man, it can be tough to keep the company culture consistent and to avoid building the same facilities over and over in every single region. Let's switch it up. Instead of organizing around what you make or where you sell, what if you organized around who you sell to? That's the whole idea behind grouping by customer. You could have one department that only deals with big wholesale clients, another for your retail customers, and a third just for international exports. Each team is laser-focused on its specific type of customer. This can be incredibly powerful for building really strong long-term relationships with your clients. But the risk is that you start having coordination problems between those customer-focused teams and the people actually making the product. And there's always the danger that some customer groups get all the love and resources while others feel a bit neglected. All right, our last method doesn't look at people or products. It looks at the workflow itself. This is called organizing by process, and it's a huge deal in manufacturing. Think of a textile mill. You'd have a spinning department, which then passes its work to a weaving department, which then sends it to a dyeing department. Each step in the process is its own specialized unit. This method is unbelievably efficient when you're making one thing over and over, because you can put all your expensive, specialized machines in one place. The problem? It can create major bottlenecks. If the weaving department gets backed up, the entire production line just stops, with everyone waiting on them to catch up. It's like a traffic jam. Okay, deep breath.
We've sorted everyone into departments. But that just leads us to the next massive question. Who's in charge? Who gets to give the orders? Let's look at the different ways to set up authority in a company. The most basic model is the line organization. This is a straight-up, top-down chain of command, kind of like the military. Authority flows in one clear, unbroken line from the CEO all the way down to the person on the factory floor. Everybody has one boss. It's fast, it's clear, no confusion.
But as a business gets more complicated, it often needs to evolve. That's where the line and staff organization comes in. The line managers, the ones in the direct chain of command, still make the final calls. But now they have staff on the side. These are specialists in things like HR or legal or accounting, and their job is to give expert advice to help the line managers make smarter decisions.
And then we have the functional organization. Now, this is a really big shift. In this model, the specialists have actual authority over their specific function, no matter where it's happening in the company. So the head of IT can give direct orders about computer systems to someone in the marketing department, even though they aren't their normal boss. So let's just put these three side by side to make it really clear. The line org is all about simplicity. One boss, fast decisions, perfect for small businesses. The line and staff model adds those specialist advisors, which is great for a company that's growing. And the functional org, it gives those experts real power, which is awesome for huge, complex companies, but it means an employee might have multiple bosses telling them what to do.
So we've looked at all these different ways to group people and all these models for who's in charge. So which one is the best one? Well, the real answer might actually surprise you. It's not about picking just one.
And this right here is probably the most important thing to remember. Real-world companies are messy. They almost never use just one of these pure models. Instead, they create a hybrid. A big company might be organized by function at the very top, but then have divisions that are organized by product, and within those divisions, teams that are organized by territory. They mix and match, creating a custom structure that works for them. And that really brings us to our final thought for today. You know, all these structures were basically designed for world of offices and factories. But today, our teams are global, they're remote, they're constantly changing for different projects. The old school, top-down models are really being put to the test. So the big question for all of us is, how are we going to reorganize for a future where the old blueprints just don't fit anymore?